Hey, hope everybody's doing well today. I'm gonna go over today. I've been wanting to do this. This is an exciting story for me. This is a family story about the girl in the well. Is what we called it growing up. This is a family story of my mom's, and she used to tell this to us as we sat around, like on the front porch. We'd get in our rocking chairs, and we would she'd tell us this story, and I've heard it over and over, and my friends have heard it, my children have heard it, and I like it. You know, it's one of those type of ghost stories that's not too scary but creepy enough. So this began in, I think Mom said 1965. There was a house that my mom and her family was living in, and at the time there was 4 siblings, and my grandmother was pregnant with the last child in 1965, and they encountered some pretty scary instances. They had heard that the house was haunted, but you know, you hear these things, you think, oh, probably not true. So one of the first occurrences, my mom was babysitting, and she had the youngest girl, Vicky. She was rocking her in the rocking chair, and she'd put the chair against the front door, and she was rocking her and heard it sound like the front door opening, and then it sounded like pitter-patters through the house, going through the house and then out the back door. Well, of course, that scared my mom, and she told my grandma. And there was other instances where they heard pitter-patters on the roof, footsteps through the house. And one time, they were, I believe, getting ready for supper, and the radio was on, and all of a sudden, it went up really loud. And my grandmother told her oldest son at the time, because it was my mom, then her brother next, I think that's what it is, then 2 sisters in the middle, and then the youngest boy. So anyway, there's 5 of them. But she told the oldest son at the time to turn the radio down. So he went in there and turned it down, came back, and it came back up. And my grandmother told John Lee at the time, that's his name, told him, I thought I told you to turn the radio down. And he said, I did, Mama. And so everybody got scared, of course, and she said, John Lee, go get my gun. And he looked at her and he said, Mama, we ain't got no gun and no bullets. And she said, shut up, John Lee, they don't know that. So they had told the instances where they were hearing things and to my grandpa, and he didn't believe it. And there was even an instance where they seen it looked like eyes looking in the window at them before, one of the windows. But they had told my grandpa, and he said, oh, y'all just being silly. You know, he didn't believe them. He said, I ain't seen, heard nothing. And he worked second shift at the time. And my grandmother, when she would cook supper, she would leave his supper on the stove at night for him to cover it up. So, and it was like late, I think like after 12 or so, with working second shift, and he'd eat and then go to bed later. Well, he came in one night and everybody was in bed, and he sat down at the table and was eating his supper, and all of a sudden he heard sound like a door open, sound like something going on top of the roof, I believe is what it was. A pitter-patter again. Scared him to death. He ran and he left his plate and all, ran in there to my grandmother, and he said, scoot over, Hazel, I'm coming to bed. So after that, he became a believer. And it wasn't long after that they ended up moving. So the rumor was that a little black girl had drowned in the well as a child. We don't know any more information about this. We don't know if it was, what year it was, or what the circumstances were with her drowning, but that was the rumor that got back to my mom's family about that well. And this house is no longer standing. This is in Lincolnton, North Carolina, as I'm from North Carolina. And the house is no longer there, but the well still is. It makes you wonder. I'd love to find out if anybody else has experienced any hauntings since it's still on the property here in Lincolnton. Well, I live in Vail now, but this is in Lincolnton. I just would love to know if anything else has happened. But this is the story that my mom would tell us growing up, and I wanted to repeat this. And it always was just fun sitting around and talking about this, and just a little eerie. Have you guys had any experiences like this? Any ghost stories? Any hauntings? I personally have never had any myself. Of course, the house we live in was nobody ever lived in. The one of me and my husband too have lived in since we've been married. So, and we never lived in any that were when I was growing up. But let me know your thoughts on this, and hit subscribe and like on my Crime Diaries with Nicole Brigg. Thank you, and this is just for educational purposes and fun. So, hope you have a good afternoon, and thank you for joining in on my girl in the well with my family story. Just a little different, something different today. Thank you, and I hope you have a good rest of the week. Bye.